Hi, I'm Wen. Before we start the show today, I want to ask you to picture something with me. Imagine you have a piece of paper and a pen in front of you. A doctor asks you to draw a clock. Sounds simple enough, right? You draw a circle and you fill in the numbers 1 through 12. But what if you drew a perfect circle, but then you squished every single number from 1 to 12 all onto the right side of the clock? The left side is completely blank. And the scariest part, you look at it and you think it looks perfectly normal. What does that mean? Are you crazy? Is your brain broken? The book I'm sharing today is about a girl who couldn't draw the left side of a clock. And that drawing didn't just save her life, it might just change the way we look at the words mental illness forever. By the end of this story, I want to talk to you about a question. When we think the mind is sick, is it possible that it's actually the body screaming for help? The book we're talking about today is called Brain on Fire, My Month of Madness. Just the title gives you such a vivid image, doesn't it? Brain on Fire. The author, Susannah Cahalan, wasn't someone with a history of mental illness. On the contrary, before she got sick, she was a rising star reporter at the New York Times. She was just 24 years old and her life was taking off. But then, one day, everything changed. At first, she thought there were bed bugs in her sheets, but there weren't. Then came the mood swings, the mania, the paranoia. She started believing people were out to get her. She went from being this bright, lively young woman to a violent stranger who had completely lost her sense of self. Can you imagine that kind of terror? You are still you physically, but inside you are gone. And what did the doctors say? Just like in so many cases we hear about, she was misdiagnosed. They said it was alcohol withdrawal. They said it was schizophrenia. She was sent to a psychiatric ward and was inches away from being committed to a long-term institution, basically labeled crazy for the rest of her life. The part of this book that really gave me goosebumps is that Susannah's account of this time is entirely reclaimed, because during that month of madness, she lost her memory completely. She had to piece her insane self back together by interviewing her family, her doctors, and reading the scribbled, messy diaries she wrote while in the hospital. Just when everyone was ready to give up, just when they thought, this girl has just lost her mind, key figure walked in. Dr. Najjar, a doctor from Syria. I absolutely love how the book describes him. He was a non-traditional genius. As a kid, Dr. Najjar struggled in private school. His teachers actually thought he was stupid. He even had to transfer schools. But maybe it was exactly because he knew what it felt like to be misunderstood that he refused to give up on a patient that mainstream medicine was ready to discard. When he met Susannah, he did something different. He didn't just look at the psychiatric reports, and he didn't immediately prescribe medication. He looked at Susannah, chatted with her like a friend, and then pulled out a piece of paper. He said, "Susannah, draw me a clock. This is the test I mentioned at the beginning." Susannah earnestly drew a circle. Then, very neatly, she wrote the numbers 1, 2, 3, all the way to 12, but she squeezed every single one of them into the right half of the circle. The left side was empty. To Susannah, the clock looked perfect. But to Dr. Najjar, it was the smoking gun. It proved that Susannah wasn't crazy. It wasn't a psychological problem. Her left brain was inflamed, which destroyed her brain's ability to process her left field of vision. It was a physical disease called Anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis. Simply put, her body's immune system was attacking her own brain. When I read this part, I wanted to scream, "Oh my God, that is Einstein-level intuition." Dr. Najjar didn't use expensive machinery. With just a pen and paper, he identified a disease that, at that time in 2009, had only been discovered 3 years prior. It really made me think. My background is actually in environmental resources, so I never had much interest in biology or medicine. I always thought psychology and sociology, the study of people, were more interesting. But this book shattered that framework for me. What Dr. Najjar is doing is building a bridge between psychiatry and physiology. Think about it. In this world, how many people locked in psychiatric wards diagnosed with depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia aren't actually sick in their souls? What if it's their immune system that's sick? If Susannah hadn't met Dr. Najjar, she would probably still be in an institution today. This book made me reevaluate the greatness of scientists. those physics, chemistry, and biology statistics that seem so cold to us. They are actually tools to pull people back from the abyss of despair. In the end, Susannah recovered. But she didn't just go back to her normal life. She carried a kind of survivor's guilt, but also a sense of mission. She started a foundation. She wrote this book because she knew her survival was luck, and she didn't want that luck to stop with her. Let's go back to the question I asked at the start of the show. What does that half-drawn clock represent? To me, that lopsided clock represents hope. It reminds us that often the madness we see might have a physiological cause that can be cured. This book isn't just a story about a medical miracle. It feels like a love letter to all the people without a diagnosis out there. If you have friends around you suffering from emotional or mental struggles, maybe we can have a little more patience, a little more curiosity. Like Dr. Najjar. Maybe, just maybe, their brain is just a little bit on fire, and they are waiting for someone to notice their half-drawn clock. I'm Wen, and this is your sanctuary, free as the wind. If you liked today's story, or if you have any reading experiences you'd like to share, please leave a comment below. I'll see you next time.